Hey guys, Charlotte County. Hope you all having a happy day. My name is Chris Chan. I'm the owner of Chelsea Place Senior Care and the host of Senior Source TV. And we got our man Anthony, the Happy Coffee Man, here today as a guest. So excited to have you on the show, man. I know you got a lot of stuff going on, and I think the point of this show for me was really just I mean everything's it's everything that you're posting now is success, happiness, love in life, just a really a major shift in the content that you're sharing. So, I think it was important to talk about, what makes people happy. And if you think about too, the folks that might be caring for a loved one, that might be caring for their mom or their dad or a spouse, what is it that makes, them happy? Because they might be going through a very difficult time caring for their loved one and may have a hard time finding happiness because all their energy is being given to their loved one. So I think happiness is an important topic because life can be very lonely if you're not happy, right?
Absolutely.
And so my question to you is what is it that you believe makes people happy? I mean, how have you found in your life the things that have made you happy or not made you happy, or give us some experience and stuff like that you've been through.
Sure. So I mean, Harvard has been doing a study since 1938 with over 700 men and women, and they have done this extensive study with these individuals, and they have found that happiness actually comes from connectivity, and then also from hormones that our body can naturally produce.
Gotcha.
So for instance, sometimes people have a low serotonin level, which causes depression, or maybe a low dopamine, which actually makes you feel fulfilled, or maybe it's the oxytocin, which I know we were talking about earlier, they call it the love drug, or love hormone, or the cuddle hormone.
Gotcha.
And think about it, if you're with your loved one, maybe watching a movie on the couch. I mean, how fulfilled do you feel when you just kind of just cuddled up to one another?
Right.
So those things kind of play a real major role in whether we're happy. And obviously
and I think too, I mean, a big point, like I mean, I know like our chemical makeup's important, but I would think even like you said, connectivity, like even being connected or socializing. I mean, just having that, feeling like you have a connection with someone else might even help produce some of those hormones. It might be it's a kind of a, you have to be connected, and you also have to have the right chemical balance.
Right. Well, think about a senior that might be isolated to their home. They're homebound, and they have no connectivity with their neighbors. They have none with their family. What do we generally find? We find that they're extremely depressed.
Right.
And
they're doped up on all sorts of depression medicine, and like yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And honestly, when I think about that, I'm like, man, like why is this person on Xanax and like all these massive like depression drugs, and they're still depressed. So obviously that don't work.
Right.
But I know, it's interesting when you think about that, because if you were to take someone like away from that loneliness and despair in their home and help bring them into an environment where they could be social, or even bring someone into their home, whether it was like home care or even the daycare, even assisted living, if you just go from living at home to now a community environment, at least you have people around you that can help support you, say hi, connect with you, ask you how your day's going. If you need something, they're able to be there for you. I mean, so like whether we're the senior that's actually living by ourselves, or we're just just even in our walk. I mean, sometimes I would think even kind of whether it's running your own business or working, sometimes we get so lost in the work that we don't have that connection.
Right. No, absolutely. I mean, and obviously we met through home care.
Right.
I was working senior care for a few years, and that was one of the main goals, is to get them connected in some way, fashion, or another. Because what happens is if they're isolated, they're not interacting, and so they're not causing those chemicals in the brain to start to fire off.
Right.
And it's about connecting with that person, so that whether it's a caregiver in a home and they're making a meal and they're talking to them, they're getting that interaction, which then is causing their neurotransmitters to release those.
Sure.
So it's a huge lack in our communities when people don't have that connectivity.
Right, absolutely. And so let me ask you this, because I know, for those that don't know, Anthony went on a trip, was it last year?
Well, a year and a half ago now.
Wow, you're gonna have to, I mean, I remember you calling me on the road, actually. I was like, where is it?
I think it was walking, maybe.
No, you were. I'm like, how do you have service right now?
Right.
So where did you go, first of all?
So I went to Spain.
Okay.
I was
And
there for.
what was the reason to go to Spain?
So I went to Spain just to kind of, I guess, prove to myself that I could do this Camino. Backing up to a few years before, I had met somebody that was driving somebody's car from Sarasota to San Diego.
Right.
And so I thought, well, I'm getting paid to do this. All right, Anthony, be an entrepreneur. How can you make more money? So I thought, well, I'll do rideshare, through Craigslist.
Right.
So I put up this thing, and I like Facebook stalked the people that answered, making sure they're like legit and not weird, because I didn't want to end up like some movie. What was that movie? Like, you sure do got a pretty mouth.
Right.
Deliverance. I didn't want to end up something like
Right,
that. So anyway, I got this one kid that was like 24 years old. And he was about 4'9". So I'm like, yeah, I can take this guy if he's weird. Right. So I pick him up and we just start talking. And it's just amazing if you'll just like step out of your comfort zone and really connect with people, the things that it can just change the course of your life. So I met this kid. We're sharing the driving. And I mean, I ended up not even charging him, for gas or anything, because it was nice to have somebody in the car.
Sure.
Fast forward to the deserts of Texas, where we got pulled over by the police. Not for doing anything wrong, but they just pulled us over.
Yeah.
And it was just crazy because these guys had never heard of Craigslist. They were trying to figure out how we had met one another. And, I'm offering them the leftover chicken that's going to go bad from Popeyes from, a couple stops before. And they're like, we're bringing the dogs. They're going to sniff you out. And I'm like, then bring them, please, I mean, I've got a schedule to keep. And it was just fun, because
hilarious.
here they are, just like.
So in their mind, they're like, why are these two guys in a car together in the middle of Texas?
Exactly.
Right.
And so they're like, so Chris said, I'm like, his name's not Chris, it's Corey. Well, Andrew, no, my name's Anthony. Well, he said, I'm like, guys, I watch CSI. I watch all these things. I know what you're trying to do.
Right.
And it was my first time in the desert, so I see all these holes in the sand, and I'm like, guys, can I like walk closer? I don't want a sidewinder to like come up and bite me. They're like, oh, those aren't snake holes, those are tarantula holes. So I'm like, yeah, not feeling any better. Long story short, they let us go,
Gotcha.
because obviously there was nothing wrong. But
right.
Anyway, this kid had told me about he had gotten addicted to drugs many years back, and it caused him and his brother to kind of lose connection. And so he had decided he was going to do this walk, the Camino, to get himself off of drugs. Wow. Him and his brother actually went together, and his brother's actually written a book. You can find it on Amazon, believe it or not. Yeah, how he came off of drugs. And so it had always been in the back of my heart. I'm like, man, I want to do this.
So for those that are like, what is a Camino?
So the Camino, it's called the Camino de Santiago. So it's the way of St. James.
Okay.
Originally, it was a Catholic, kind of rite of passage or pilgrimage, but people have adopted it to all different kinds of faiths, or not even faith-based.
Right.
It's just basically just kind of getting one with nature, one with yourself, being alone, and just kind of figuring out what you want to do. You know.
Right.
So that had been in the back of my head and in my heart for a long time. Fast forward a couple years later, and we hadn't talked in like a month or so, and I'm like, man, what's going on with Corey? So back then, the Messenger app had not been really required. So I had to go to his profile to get to his Messenger, and I saw this article, and this article said 28-year-old bludgeoned to death in a Houston parking garage. And I'm like, holy cow, no way. Sure enough, this young kid had lost his life. Somebody had taken his life, so I called his mom, and it just made it more real. I'm like, I've got to do this. Yeah. I started looking at flights. They were $800, $900, $1,200, and I'm like, I just can't. I can't see myself doing that. And somebody turned me on to another airline, and I look, and I'm like, $380 round trip from Fort Lauderdale? Are you kidding me? Right. I booked it immediately, and so I flew over there. I had a couple hiccups that ended up just being the right time, the right place, for the right reason, and met a gentleman by the name of Abraham that, my plane got delayed. He put me up for 3 nights. Wow. And would not let me.
So where you go?
I was in Oviedo at that time.
Okay. All right.
Which is in north central Spain.
Okay. And so you're by yourself, like your family's back home, right?
6,000 miles away.
So here you are by yourself in another country, and so this gentleman offers you a place to stay temporarily until you, because what was the plan? I guess were you in a, why did you get delayed, or what happened there with that?
So my plane got delayed.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's why, and that's where I met him. He was delayed as well.
Gotcha.
So there was like
But
seven of us.
you were delayed for a couple of days though.
Well, I was delayed for 36 hours.
Okay.
So then by the time I got into Spain, I had to wait for the passport office to open.
Gotcha.
So I could get what's called your pilgrim passport. So I had to wait till Monday.
Wow. Gotcha.
So,
man,
but I mean, it was fun. But I mean,
but that's what I'm trying to say is this whole time now, like you're basically by yourself. But you know, essentially the cool part about it is that you actually had the opportunity to connect with other people.
Absolutely.
And go, like, basically being in a whole new country, no one you know, and
Right.
you can connect with people.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, and so, you know, I mean, I got on that, you know, he took me down to the pilgrim's office. I got my stuff. I started walking. GPS is not that great.
Right.
Data is for some reason, but for some reason, Google just refuses to give you the right way.
Right.
So I had
right,
one
right.
heck of a time finding the start of the Camino.
Right.
And I was supposed to take the northern route,
Yeah.
which goes along the coast, which is beautiful. I ended up, and I mean, look at me. I'm not like the physical, you know, yeah. I mean, I'm not the physical type.
And
even
how
though
long?
I can.
How long is a Camino?
So if you start from the original place,
Yeah.
which is in the Pyrenees, you're probably looking at 5 weeks.
Okay.
I didn't have that much time
Yeah,
off of
yeah,
work, so
yeah.
I'm like, I've got to get this done in like 14 days.
Okay. Gotcha.
So I started in the middle portion of the journey, and so I start, and I finally get to the start, and I start walking. I'm like, this doesn't seem right.
Right.
I ended up on the Primitivo,
Yeah.
which is the primitive route, which is the original route. But I mean, think about it. Primitive, it just sounds
just that
hard,
word
right?
sounds hard. Yeah.
So
yeah.
it was.
Yeah.
So now I'm not going along the coast.
Right.
Now I'm in the mountains of Spain.
Right.
And we're talking like Appalachian type mountains. So
Right.
I'm like, you know, Christian people, close your ears. I mean, I literally like was saying words that would never come out of my mouth as I'm like climbing up the mountain and getting around the bend, and then I'm like, oh my God, again?
Right.
And then I'm going up a steep level
Right.
again,
Right.
and then I get around the corner and I'm like, oh my God,
Right.
I've got to go up even higher, you know?
Sure.
And so, I mean, I do have to say, I was one of the lucky ones. I mean, literally, and if you're going to do this, I change my socks 5 times a day.
Wow.
I had sneakers instead of boots. I never once got a blister.
Right.
And I walked over 220 miles.
Crazy. That's
Yeah.
crazy. I get a blister, man.
Yeah.
I put on a new pair of shoes, man. In 5 minutes, I'm like,
Yeah.
how did that thing? Where'd that thing come
And
from?
so I met people all along the
Yeah.
way, and people that I'm still in contact with to today.
wow.
And that was a year and a half ago.
Right.
You know,
right.
I went back
It
again
really,
last
it's
year.
just like having that. Well, first of all, too, I gotta say is that taking on something like that, taking on a massive accomplishment to walk a primitive route,
Right.
right, is really got to be you know, I mean, it's a massive accomplishment, and I think a lot of times what we do in life, the plans that we set for ourselves, they may feel that way,
Right.
but along that journey, there's things that happen that are going to be rewarding. There's things that happen that are going to suck.
Mm-hmm.
But the reality of it is you know, trying to get into a place where you can find joy through those
Right.
hurdles. Because I think about it now is, so when you accomplish that, you go through that, you go on that walk and you accomplish
Right.
it. You know, what's that overall, when you look back and you think, you know, how was that experience for you? You know, what does that remind you? What comes to mind?
Well, I think the big thing is mindset is everything. You know, you have to feed your mind positive things. I mean, you turn on the news, I mean, you're going to be on all sorts of antidepressants, you know?
And you're bringing up a great point, because if we're talking about feeding your mind, we can feed our mind through, you know, words.
Yep.
You know, we can feed our mind through our own
Actions.
thoughts. We can feed our mind through actions.
Mm-hmm.
Other people's actions can feed our mind.
Right.
You know, our food, you know,
Right.
itself is
Absolutely.
going to affect our brain's ability to work, you know, to function or not function, being malnourished in certain
Right.
things, you know.
Well, for me, like, so for instance, I mean, I experienced a lot of pain, obviously, going up and down these mountains, you
Yeah.
know. Luckily, I did take the girl that gave me her backpack, which was
Right.
red, but her walking sticks were hot pink, and I'm like, I'm not going to take those. And she's like, you know what, just take them,
Right.
you know. I'm like, it's going to be hard, you know, kind of level. No, it wasn't. I ended up taking the wrong way. So those came in handy, and I could have cared less who saw these hot pink walking sticks, you know,
Right,
as I'm
right.
walking.
Yeah.
And they didn't care either. But you can either choose to have pain in your purpose, or you can have purpose from your pain.
Right.
You know,
right,
it's just
right,
how
right,
you look
right.
at it.
So what's interesting is, one is being proactive.
Right.
Is taking on an idea, or taking on a, you know, like for instance, even if I was caring for my mom or caring for my dad or my spouse, right? And it's a difficult time. I can say, hey, you know what? I'm going to make the best out of this experience, and I'm going to, change my mindset, change the way I view what this is like right now, and say, I'm going to do what I can to make sure I add value to my mom's life, to make sure that I'm present with her, to find a way to connect in this moment, because this might be the last time, this might be the last few months that I get to spend with her. Or I can take the mindset of, God, man, she's just driving me crazy. I can't take this anymore. Like, there's just no way. And and that mindset can be so toxic to you, Because if I try to take the proactive approach, it's like I'm setting myself up already to know that this is going to be difficult. It's not going to be easy, but I'm trying to find the purpose in going through this experience. I'm trying to identify with a mission, or what do I see out of this that I think is going to be important, for my mom and for me.
Well, even like for me, I mean, obviously being from the senior care, population, I learned a lot about dementia and different things. And, your diet can play a huge role. Because if you're not feeding your brain good, healthy fats during the day, you are not feeding your brain. I mean, and we're in a day and age that everything's sugar-free, fat-free, and, all these different things.
All nutrition's been stripped out of food.
Absolutely. And so one thing that I learned in senior care was the fact that even though my mom or my dad have dementia or a form of dementia, they may not remember me, or they may not remember different things, but the emotion factor is still connected. So whether or not they remember that I took them to a place for sociability where they were happy, guess what? They're going to be happy when they get home, even though they don't remember.
And it's funny that you say that, because even sometimes, depending on the level of cognitivity that someone comes to our center here, they might come in and they may not even know that they were here yesterday, but they know they have a sensation that this is a good place. There's a sense like, this feels like a good place, or maybe they even remember feeling like the same feeling before, and so therefore they feel comfortable here,
Well, think about it this way. Like, think about driving in your car. And let's say you're in the middle of a big city that you've never been to. You make a wrong turn.
And you get your Google Maps.
But you end up in an area where if you did have your Google Maps, it would say, hey, get out of here right now. But we have that kind of innate ability inside of who we are to kind of have those feelings and discernment, I mean, have you ever literally driven in the wrong place and then you're like, lock the door? You know what I mean? So it's the same thing. That's not a knowledge of where you are all the time, but that's a feeling. So it's the same thing, So like you said, they come into an adult date center, or maybe they're at home and they have a caregiver that's coming in, and that person brings them joy and happiness. And they leave, and the memory of them being there may be gone. But the feeling of being there,
or even like this caregiver versus that caregiver, this one having that, they made me feel really good, this one not, and I know the difference. I mean, I think, it's so important, because I even see that with family members sometimes. It's like this particular family member can come see their loved one, and you can tell there's a different sensation that person has versus this other family member. And so I mean, when it comes to that whole mindset thing, and knowing that if what did you say? I have passion in my purpose versus
either pain in your purpose,
pain in my purpose,
or purpose in your pain.
Or purpose in my pain. So pain in my purpose, or purpose in my pain.
So in other words, as you're moving forward, you can just have pain.
Exactly.
Or you can look at it. Look, this is my purpose. This is where I'm going. Sure, there's going to be things that might hurt, but at the end of the day, my purpose is going to be fulfilled by that.
When those things come at me, they don't affect me the way they would if I was focused on the pain. If I was focused on
it allows us to a point, so we can either choose to react or respond. And I think having purpose in our pain allows us to respond, which is not a knee-jerk reaction. It's like, okay, this is what it looks like.
I knew this was gonna be difficult. I mean, I knew that that the situation with mom was not gonna be perfect. And so therefore, trying to find joy in where can I find the highlights at? Where can I, what do I know am I getting out of this experience? So it's really interesting. So that connectivity thing is so important then too, because it's like if I'm not connected with others, then it's hard to create your own feelings, because sometimes this conversation or what we're talking about or the environment we're in, and then going back to the food thing, you were saying, with just food, if we're not feeding our mind. So now if I got this person at home and they're by themselves and they're not eating properly, we get a double whammy. There's two things that are now causing that person to not be able to maybe perform at their peak. So they have no socialization, lack of nutrition, and those can be really, and that, honestly, and I think your Harvard study even said something about that. I mean, meaning like there's a chemical thing which could be food intake. It could be. I'm saying what I feed my body, what I put into it, could affect the chemical balance. And the connectivity thing. So it all comes down to
And there's a couple different ways you can get that. You can get that in a natural based, or you can go to a doctor and just have them give you, obviously a drug.
But then we're going back to the whole respond versus react.
Absolutely.
Drugs react. Responding could be like, let me change my diet, or let me change what I'm eating, or my
Me personally, I would rather do it all natural.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I would rather have a hormone released, or those endorphins released, versus a chemical of that's coming from some synthetic drug.
So let me ask you this too then. Because of your background in senior care, what if a caregiver was caring for their loved one and they were going through a really difficult time and they just couldn't find happiness? They were sad, they were depressed, they were going through their own bout of depression, and they're trying to make the best for their situation. Or they may not even be trying to make the best because they don't even know how. What would be your suggestion to someone going through something like that?
Take care of themselves. So, and how do you do that? Your own socialization. Because if you're a caregiver, chances are you're probably 24/7. Or at least, they say that usually it's the matriarch of the family, the older sister, that is taking care of.
Does everything. She's power of attorney, financial power of attorney, healthcare power of attorney.
And so they don't give time for themselves. And so, your serotonin levels, your dopamine levels, the oxytocin, it's all going to be lowered because you're not spending the time cuddling with your husband or your significant other, whatever that may be.
You're not out with your friends.
Absolutely.
You're even being in like a support group to support the care that's happening with your mom.
Or taking a day where you just go shopping with your girlfriends or your guy friends, a round of golf, whatever it may be. You need to get out and you need to socialize, because if you think about it, most people that are clinically depressed are isolated people. And studies will show too.
And then what's tough is if you are depressed, it's hard for you to even get over the depression to go out and connect.
For sure. And so studies prove that even the caregiver tend to pass or die before the one that they're caring for. So think about this. I'm caring for my wife, and let's say we're 85 years old. Now I'm caring for her all the time with no help.
And what's interesting is the person that is actually that's not cognizant, they're happy as can be.
Absolutely.
They don't have to worry about nothing.
They have no idea.
They're living in like another world, and it's just happy there.
It's kind of almost a state of bliss, because you can fight with them and then they forget that
you fought. It's hard for them to because a lot of times our feelings will be based on previous or memories, past experiences. So a lot of times the way we might feel might be based on like something that happened to us or external forces. But if we don't remember any of that stuff, hey, it's actually, that's why in some cases, depending on the situation, it could be harder on the caregiver.
Oh, absolutely, and it usually is. So again, they're caring for them nonstop. They pass. Well, what about the loved one you were caring for? I mean, I mean, isn't it better to be proactive and get some help? You got to do something.
So even if it was a support group with like friends that are going through similar situations, that it's like they could just relate to you. They I get what you're going through. I understand the struggle. I'm going through it myself, and we can do this together.
And there's many different places around here that are offering support groups. I mean, you can call the Alzheimer's Association. You can call the what's the other one? The Neuro Challenge. They have them. I mean, so locally, people can find them. Support groups anywhere.
In fact, I mean, we got that conference coming up too this coming Saturday, Caring for the Caregiver. It's March 30th, this Saturday, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We actually have the Alzheimer's Association and Neuro Challenge coming, talking about the support groups and stuff. But like good information for families that might be caring for their mom, dad, or spouse. So definitely want to check that out if you're here right here at our daycare center at Chelsea Place Adult Daycare. But so tell us something too, because you got. I see you posting all this stuff online. Every morning I wake up to a picture of you posting happy coffee. I mean, what is this happy coffee stuff? What is that all about?
It actually does some of the things that a typical drug might do. Meaning, so what's in it? It actually releases dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and other endorphins in the product so that it can help to elevate those. What has it done for me personally?
Yeah.
I've actually lost 38 pounds.
Right.
And then it's just elevated every part of my life because, again, happiness is what brings success.
Right, right.
So, you know, it was difficult for me to make that transition from a full-time employee to owning my own business.
Right, because it can be a little frightening, you know?
Yeah,
like
absolutely.
making that transition, you know? So.
I would never look back right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm on such a course to, because my goal is, my why is to get to Spain.
Right.
And we originally thought full-time, but now we're thinking part-time. But we want to open our own hostel along the primitive route.
Right.
And, you know, so, you know, that's kind of my why.
That's awesome.
And I see the, you know, with being an employee, it wasn't going to give me the funds available that I needed to make that happen.
Right.
This company is giving me those funds available to absolutely 100% make that happen in the next 4 years.
Right, right. That's awesome, man. That's awesome. So, I mean, what would you say? I mean, it sounds like, because what's cool about it is that not only is it something that, like, from a chemical standpoint, has helped you, but also, you know, the group that you're, the folks that are also a part of the Happy Coffee crew, the folks that are part of that. I mean, that's a group that you are, you know, kind of connected with and have a social experience with. You know, you guys are all on this journey together.
Right.
You know, being connected like that, I'm sure adds, you know,
It
to the excitement too.
It does, and so I try to stay connected as often as I can, because I mean, who doesn't like being encouraged or being an encourager? You know.
It's like
Les
going,
Brown,
like, say you went to the conference.
Yeah,
in
Les
Miami.
Brown, and most people know him as the guy that says, "You got to be hungry."
Right,
you know?
right.
But if you don't know who he is, look him up. He is literally considered the #1 motivational speaker in the world.
Yeah, he's a, I mean, I think everyone knows.
Yeah, well, and he was married to Gladys Knight.
Yeah.
You know, at one point. But so 2 weekends ago, I'm in a room with 120 other individuals.
Right.
Les Brown, his daughter, and his assistant are literally mentoring us all day.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, you know, there's a saying that says life is 10% what happens to you, 90% of how you react to it.
Right, right.
It's the truth.
Yeah.
I mean, you can choose. It doesn't negate the fact that something bad is happening.
Right.
But you still have to choose to focus your mind on.
Yeah, what am I?
It's okay. I'm gonna make it through it. You know.
Exactly. I always have. I always will.
Yep.
Just how do I respond to this time? Am I
always say, you know, you might be going through hell.
Right.
But you're not staying overnight.
Right.
You know, so you're going through it.
Yeah.
You're going to come out on the other side, and so you got to look at it that way. And words play a powerful part of what that is.
Right.
You know, and some of those posts that I put up can kind of make people like, oh, not again. But then I challenge you, where are you at?
Right.
You know, take those instead of saying, oh my God, Anthony's so happy all the time, I can't get over it. You know, or you know what? At the end of the day, just flip the way you think.
Anyone that would feel that way would probably not be, you know, they're not feeling happy themselves. So it's like they can't see how he could be happy all the time. You know, so it's really an internal thing.
Right.
You know, so my question to you then, Ree, is, and for the audience is, you know, if they were wanted to reach out to you, what would be the best way for them to contact you? So
there's 2 ways that you can contact me. I don't mind giving my phone number. You can have my phone number. It's 352-553-8414. Again, that's 352-553-8414.
For that happy man, happy coffee man. You know?
Or you can look me up on Facebook. It's Anthony James Sands.
Okay.
And see this beautiful mug? It'll be right on the profile picture. As long as you see everything about Happy Coffee, that's definitely me.
Awesome.
But yeah, so I mean, 98% of all of our coffee connections come through social media.
Right. Wow, that's awesome.
I know.
Well, I appreciate this time today, man. I mean, I love just even talking about this subject, happiness, mindset. I think it's important for caregivers, the individuals that are actually, you know, living at home alone.
Yep.
Anyone kind of going through that caregiving process. Really, anyone can benefit from just understanding how to obtain happiness and what that means, like, you know, to them in their lives. Because I think happiness is going to be, it's the same route, but just maybe in a different form. You know, I mean, it's like,
I think the important thing to remember is invest in yourself.
Exactly.
You know, whether it's time or whether it's you know, eating the right foods. Invest in yourself. You'll never lose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Anthony, for joining us. Appreciate it, man. You always got good stories, man. From the Camino to the Happy Coffee and back. Thank you for joining us today. If you guys look forward to another episode, tomorrow we're going to have, I think, Jessie she's going to be talking about Medicaid and how that works in long-term care. So look forward to going through that material. But thank you all so much, and we'll see you guys soon. If you have any questions, if you need a referral, if you're looking for any sort of senior care related services in town, or you just don't know where to start and you're caring for a loved one, feel free to reach out to us. You can give us a call at 941-677-7233, and we'll be happy to help you find the local resources that you guys need. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you guys soon. All right, man.
Awesome.
Thanks, brother.
Dude, that went really well.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, see, that's all I got.